officially to our gathering. It's good for me to be back, and thanks for letting me have the week off. It was a great week in the beach, despite not having a phone. I finished Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, which I told you guys I had started, and I just cannot recommend it enough. It's so good. On one hand, just a great fiction, period. On the other hand, so timely. I just got a notification that the podcast I told you all about that I've been listening to, Octavia tried to tell us, they just had on today, which I didn't get to watch, but I'll get to watch the replay. They had Adrienne Marie Brown on today talking about it. So anyways, lots of goodness there, and I wanted to highly recommend it, but it's been a good week. I hope you all have had a good week. I also got to participate in 2 podcasts, one with Mr. Tapper down here. At least he's on the bottom row of my screen. Super excited about that, and I don't know when that'll come out, but I love, they're often asking me questions about my life, but it always gets to sort of what we're doing and what we're up to, and I love sharing about all this lovely, crazy, experimental goodness we're up to in the world. So hopefully you can listen to that. The other one came out earlier this week. Anyway, so we're going to get started, and we'll start with our naming practice. And I know all of you are very familiar with this, but just as a reminder, as you introduce yourself, it's not just like go through it like, oh, my name is Melissa, I'm here. It's literally like, take a breath, be in this space, use your voice, and as always, your voice and your presence matters deeply, not just to us, but to this world. And so this practice is just a way of you saying, I'm claiming my space, and that's a good thing. I'm going to take up the space that is mine to take up, and I'm going to practice using my voice and interjecting myself into the world, because we need every single one of us. So tell us your name, remind us of your name. For most of us all know each other really well, but where you're calling in from, your preferred pronouns, and any other label that is important to you and fitting that you want to share. So I will start with Nathan. He's in my top left corner.
All right, Nathan Johns, Lebanon, Tennessee, he, him, and that's it.
Lovely. I'm next on our block. So Melissa, I'm from Franklin right now. She, her, hers, and just excited to see all your faces again. Lauren.
Hey everyone, my name's Lauren Pilney. My pronouns are she and her. I'm calling from my house in Nashville, Tennessee. Happy to be here.
Yay. Ben and Joy.
Hello, I'm Joy. My pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Ben, he, him, and we're in North Nashville.
Lovely. Leah.
My name is Leah. I live here in Nashville. My pronouns are she, her.
Lovely. Megan.
Hello, I'm Megan. She, her, my pronouns. I'm in Nashville. And another word that I would use to describe myself that I'm reclaiming is the word fat. And I would encourage everyone to find words that describe your body that you love.
Megan, I love listening to your voice. It's that sweet, soothing podcast voice that you're like, that you love. I love it. Thank you for all of that. JJ.
I'm JJ, he, him, and I'm coming in from Nashville, about 3 blocks north of Lauren.
So cute. Love it. Chris and Linda.
Chris Hauser from Brentwood, he, him, his.
Linda Hauser from Brentwood. I actually don't have a preference.
Lovely. Cece.
Hi, Cindy Hoppus from Spring Hill. NCC is my favorite. Not from adults, but from the kids.
Except for me, sorry. I need to call you mom, mother. More preferred. Is Hoppy in the background anywhere?
I mean, he's been building me a cat tower. And so he got tied up in that. So he had to take a shower. He was not presentable for TV.
Love it. Abby.
Hi, I'm Abby, she, her, and I am calling from Tacoma, Washington.
Yay. Love it. Malia.
I'm Aaliyah, she, her, hers. I'm in Brentwood, Tennessee.
Lovely. Ashley.
I'm Ashley, she, her, Lebanon, Tennessee.
Great. Benjamin.
My bad, I'm here. Ben Tapper from Indianapolis, Indiana. He, him, his for my pronouns. And it feels important to name both that the weather here is finally nice and that I identify as Black and biracial. It's glad to be here.
Love it. I'm glad you have good weather. Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, she, her. I'm in my car driving back to my house in Bellevue.
Woohoo! That's great. Lovely. Well, everyone take a collective breath. So glad we're all here. Mr. Nathan, you're up.
Sorry, I was muted. So first off, we're going to do the tell you something good. Tell me something good, I guess is the better way of phrasing it, which comes along with a theme song. And it goes something like, tell me something good. So who's up? I can't see hands, so if you'll raise your hand on the, there we go. All right, Ben and Joy.
So we have some really big news. For those of you who don't follow us on Facebook and who weren't at happy hour a couple of weeks ago, Ben and I, being represented by the ACLU, we sued the Tennessee state government for people to be able to vote by mail, so that during this pandemic, people who are worried about catching COVID won't have to worry about it and can vote by mail, because the restrictions for vote by mail in Tennessee are absolutely ridiculous. So we sued and we won. And so now any Tennessean can vote by mail. Another big win for us was, well, I'll let you tell what happened with the judge and everything. With them not. Okay. I was just gonna share, but anyway, so the government wasn't doing their job, and they were not applying the ruling that the judge had ordered, which is illegal. And so we sued them for contempt, or not. We didn't sue them. We took them to court for contempt, and so we had to go back to court, and the judge ruled that she enforced the ruling and literally shamed them from her chair and told them, shame on you for not applying my order. And if this happens again, you'll be held in criminal contempt and will be put in jail. So it's now up on their website, and it's now correct on all the forms and everything that the judge had ordered. So now we're just waiting, because they did ask for the ability to file an appeal, which was granted. So now we're waiting on that appeal, but we're ready to take them on if it has to go to a higher court, but we're still celebrating these wins that we've had.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Anyone else?
I just was going to add, I literally had friends in California text me seeing the ruling out there, and they were just like, did you just see what Tennessee just did? And I said, why, yes, I did. I saw it on Facebook before they put it in the news.
Megan, can you share about your podcast or the book club again, and just a little bit more about that? So now that everybody's here.
Yeah. First of all, this is my tell me something good. I just got something in the mail from one of my preschoolers.
Oh,
So sweet. So yeah, I put a link in the chat. I have a podcast, which most of you know about, called Nobody Asked for This, a Diet Culture Takedown, and Abby was a guest on season 2. But we are starting a book club because there's this great book called Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia. Because fat phobia comes from white supremacy, like most things do. So yeah, follow that link if you're interested. We'd love to have you.
All right. Any other good news out there?
Hey, Chris Hauser. I would. Oh yeah, sorry. CC was like, that's a hand up, isn't it? Sorry, CC. I cede the floor to you.
I think she was clapping.
I think she was
Well,
clapping.
I meant to raise my hand, but Chris, you go and then I'll go after you.
Got it. Okay. I love it when a plan comes together. I just want to say that I feel like I've kind of woken up in the last couple of weeks from listening to a lot of podcasts and watching documentaries and engaging with people of color more, especially in the Christian music industry. And it's just been a profound experience for me in the last couple of weeks to have conversations that I'm having with people. So I guess if I say anything more, it's gonna be just like privilege oozing all over the camera and all over the computer, and I'm still figuring it all out. But I just want to say I feel alive, and I want to say to Melissa as well for leading us in so many ways in all this over the last couple of years. It's been you've been this catalyst for all of us. I only speak for me, but I see it and I feel it. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris. My tell me something good is that I spent the week at the beach in a secluded house with one other family who's also stayed fully socially distanced, and you literally open the back door and like we're on the sand in minutes. And the first night we were there, we walked in the dark because there's no like street lights or anything, because it's just all like neighborhood. There's no high rises or anything. And we saw a sea turtle laying eggs, and she was huge. And it was like the most magical thing. And then I saved a starfish at one point and threw her back. And then I got lots of shells. And it's just me being that literally connected with nature was and always is like refreshing and empowering and magical. So it was a great week. And the book that I told y'all about, Parable of Sower, I finished it. And it's not a podcast. I said podcast. It's like a video YouTube series that you can get to, but I will put it in our Imaginarium community page. So that's mine. CC.
Well, I wanted Rick sitting here and he got a damn phone call, so maybe I'll wait. Sorry.
You can
Leah,
tell us good later.
Leah, you had your hand up as well, right?
Yes, I did. I put it back down. My tell me something good. Well, I don't know. I feel like there are always lots of good things around. It is also a beautiful day here in Nashville and has been. I found out that a TV show that I really like that brings me lots of joy, that had kind of been on hold due to the pandemic, figured out a way to make an animated episode, and that's coming out tomorrow. And so it just makes me happy. One of those things that like brings me a lot of joy. It's called One Day at a Time. It's a remake of an older show. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Awesome. Anyone else? I can't see any hands, so
Abby.
I'll go.
okay.
Yeah, I'll go. It's been a difficult transition in some ways to move somewhere new during a pandemic and lots of things happening. But yesterday, my sister and her daughter came over to my house. I'm living with my brother and sister-in-law. And so my sister-in-law, my brother and 5-year-old nephew are on a backpacking trip right now, but my sister came over with her, with my niece, and then my sister-in-law and my other niece, and we just got to hang out. And it was just a moment of like, okay, this is why I'm here. Like, this is what I've never lived close to my family in adulthood and be by my nieces and nephews. So it was just a good moment of remembering, like, this is what I came here for, and then opportunity. Out here, everything is still pretty locked down. You can't really do anything. So it was just a bright spot in kind of the mundane that's been happening to be able to actually spend time with my family and my nieces and get to do that just as on like a normal day. So that was exciting.
Love it.
Awesome.
Malia wanted to go too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Malia?
Yes. So we got a couple things real quick. So our son has been in Scouts since he was a little kid. And some of you know that he went through some pretty difficult times over the past year. And about the beginning of, I think it was somewhere around January, he said that he didn't want to do it anymore, which was really hard for us, especially for David, because he's very involved with the troop too. And we thought that might be the end of it. And but really, everything with the pandemic and everything kind of slowing everything down, he went through a lot of healing. And this past weekend, yesterday, last night, this morning, he and David were on a Boy Scout outing. So he is kind of making his way back to that, which is it's good because it's a good thing for him. So we're really happy about that. I hope that this continues. I hope that he gets back into it because he's such a good leader, and there's some really good kids in that group, and be good for him. And then the other thing is, this past week we started dog training with Ben Lay, and we're really excited about that. Yay! We're already seeing a difference with the dog, so I'm excited to keep going and get this puppy trained.
Is that happening virtually or in person? Virtually.
Virtually, mostly. I think we'll have one in-person session, right, when we do leash work. But yeah, we had a Zoom call last week, so yeah, it's going good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Anyone else? All right. Well, we'll move into our land acknowledgement. So traditionally, we had specifically honored the original homeland of the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Shawnee, and Yuchi tribal nations. But since we've moved to virtual meetings, we now have participants across the United States and in other countries. So today I offer an expanded acknowledgement of the painful histories of genocide and forced removal from all territories, and we honor and respect the many diverse indigenous peoples still connected to the land on which we sit.
Love that. Thank you, Nathan. Haven is very busy outside on her new skateboard, so she won't be joining us this afternoon. So I'll lead us through our embodiment practice. This is so important as we always remember to be in touch with our bodies, to be grateful for our bodies, to be paying attention to our bodies, to let us feel things all the way down into our bodies, not just in our minds, but literally all the way down. And trust our intuition when our bodies are trying to speak to us and tell us things. So we put our hands together like this, and we will tap all of our fingers starting with our thumb, and we will say stop, breathe, know your worth. Stop, Breathe. Know your worth. One more time. Stop. Breathe. Know your worth. Thank you. All right. And now JJ and Lauren are going to lead us through a special writing practice today.
Yay! Oh, I'm so excited for this. I'm ready for some quiet, dedicated time to just dream and create and get into my head a little bit. And I hope that all of you are too. So before we dive into this, for those of you that didn't know what the plan was today, I want to give you just a minute to either get something pulled up on your computer or go grab a writing utensil and a little notebook so that you're ready. And then we'll come back together and we'll give the instructions. I'll watch and make sure you all look ready. Great. Everybody give me a little thumbs up if you're good to go. Cool. Okay, so what we're going to do today, in just a second, Nathan's going to put some slides up just to guide us and keep us focused. But we're going to take a couple minutes to walk through some writing prompts that were actually inspired by one of our dear leaders at Imaginarium, Abby Lane. So if you're not following her on Instagram, she posted this beautiful post a couple of weeks ago about things that make her feel alive. And I'm going to read the caption here in a second, but we're going to be going through some sensory prompts, really examining what either both mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, what things make us feel alive. And hopefully we're thinking through things that are beautiful and good, even in the midst of all of this, in hopes that that can sort of seep into all of the other crevices of our lives. So I'm going to read these words, and then I'll be a timekeeper as well for the prompts, and I'll let JJ talk a little bit more about these prompts. But settle in, get comfortable for a second, and I'm going to read Abby's caption for this original prompt. Love has been finding me in new ways these last few weeks. It is spoken literally in heart-shaped leaves and designs in the pavement. It has visited me in the form of unique birds, a fox, and the neighborhood deer who approach me like we are kin. I mostly consider myself someone who is loved well and loves herself well. I have no problem being alone and find solitude to be the most effective weighted blanket for my soul. But lately, dragonflies, the smell of coffee beans, and the way stories move through my body have me floating inside curiosity and vulnerability, awakening an innate order of my natural being. It feels like both a returning to and something new. After listening to the loveliest, casually brilliant conversation between Ebony Janice and Elizabeth Gilbert for the third time, I felt compelled to start making a list of things I want. I have done this a billion times in the form of journaling, vision boards, reflective moments that normally happen around birthdays and New Year celebrations. This time, though, I really listened. I noticed I had a habit of listing things that felt acceptable versus what my actual desires were. Anytime a word, no matter how commonplace it seemed in other settings, made me feel sensual or indulgent, I immediately felt the need to hide from it or qualify it. I was able to trace most of these things back to cultural messaging or the order of things within the life I always thought I was supposed to be living. But the more I sat within the words I was drawn to write down, the more me I felt. the more free I felt. I don't want to waste the gift of pleasure because I don't see myself as worth feeling good. We are only as honest as our ability to sit with and respond to the things that make us feel alive. That's what these bodies are for: feeling, expressing, holding, delighting. Posting this list makes me feel quite uncomfortable because it makes me feel seen. But I've decided I am interested in the emotional luxury of being human. It's the one thing nobody can take from me. It's the one thing nobody can take from you. So we ask you, what makes you feel alive? So these prompts that we're about to put in front of you will take 3 minutes, and we'll have some examples to sort of guide you. But we'll take 3 minutes to write down whatever comes to mind for you individually, and then we'll take 2 minutes to share on each of these. So yeah, JJ, can you help us set these up, especially in context of today's world, which is not different from where we were a couple weeks ago when Abby wrote this, but maybe some of us have a different awareness of the world 2 weeks later, and how we want to keep that in mind as we walk through these prompts.
Yeah. When we were discussing kind of doing these writing prompts, there was, we were saying we want to, at Imaginarium, we want to be always doing the work internally, but also externally, recognizing and holding up the values that we are all connected in the world, and we're all responsible to each other. And so this kind of our writing prompts are going to be in 2 essentially phases here. The first phase is really going, all right, can I sit and be honest with myself about the things I long for in myself and in this world? And can I actually speak those? And I think a lot of times right now, where we're afraid to say a lot of those things out loud, for offending other people, or for even just like wishing for them for ourselves in the midst of the chaos, right? In the midst of the chaos, a lot of longing feels selfish and feels, like I shouldn't be wishing for that when there's so much crazy going on in the world and so many people who are dealing with heavy things. And we wanted to just pause and just say, okay, in order for you to recognize the magic in yourself, first we have to pause and see that. And that will then, when you understand that you are magical and you are connected and you're responsible, that actually gives you the fuel and the fire to go out and make a difference in the world in new ways that maybe you didn't imagine that you could before. Literally Imaginarium, right? Imagining a better world, both that we are embodying and then we are living out. So this first part is really just in the context of everything we are in the world, standing in ourselves and owning who we are and saying it's okay to long for these things and want these things and to be these things. And then so that'll be kind of the first phase. And then out of that, we'll then say, all right, so now what does that mean for the world, especially in light of everything that's going on right now? So this first phase, Nathan, why don't you go ahead and put up the first prompt? So the first prompt for us is, what feelings are synonymous with feeling alive for you? And with each of these 2, one of the things that we're going to say is that sometimes you might go, what does that mean? Or what do you mean by that? Like to give more direction than what the words are. And we're actually going to withhold giving more direction, because in this space, what does this question mean for you? And what the answer means for you is kind of what needs to be called out right now. So we won't go into too much depth explanation of each of these, and allow the words to just kind of flow over you, and then the words to flow out of you. So we'll take 3 minutes to answer the question, what feelings are synonymous with feeling alive for you? And the examples we have here are nourished, whole, free, wild. Feel free to take 3 minutes to write.
Time's up. Okay, we're gonna take 2 minutes and share a little bit. Does anybody care to share what came up in those last 3 minutes for you? I'll start. I was picturing the feelings that I feel specifically when I was trying to think of when I feel most alive, and it's when I'm in nature and it's when I'm doing something challenging. So I'm just hiking up the mountain. I get to the top. How am I feeling? And my words were energetic, connected, refreshed, challenged, and invigorated. So thinking about how I can take those same feelings that I feel when I'm hiking up a mountain and insert those into other places of my life so I can hold on to that feeling of feeling alive without that setting, is what came up for me. Joy, I think I saw a raised hand from you.
It was for Ben, yeah.
Yeah, I just real quick, I just jotted a couple of things down. One is when I become actively involved, like actively involved in something, not just raising a hand or shouting out some support on Facebook, which is all fine and great. But whenever I've noticed in myself that whenever I personally, actively become involved in something, it's a very, it makes me feel alive. Also, kind of in that same vein, when you cross that line of being maybe a supporter of something to making the active choice to personally invest a part of yourself in it, that also makes me feel alive. And then the last thing, and I want to be very careful here because I don't want this to get misconstrued as the toxic form of this, but it's just true. It's my truth. I, as a cancer survivor, pain has always made me feel that I am alive. And Chris spoke to this earlier and talking about how he feels awake more these last few weeks. I've had the same feeling, and it's because it's been a lot of pain. I've woken up to a lot of pain that, sure, I knew about, but I'm feeling it more now in a more visceral way, given the climate we're in and everything going on, than I have before. And in a positive way, it's woken me up and has made me feel alive and conscious of what's happening, the severity of what's happening around us. So again, I want to be super careful. I don't want that to get, because I know there's a you can go down a bad path there. But for me, my truth is it's that has always been something for me that has, okay, I can feel that I'm not dead. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm still here, and it's just weird how it's connected to the pain that has been really roiling through me over the last few weeks, and all of us, I'm sure. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Ben. JJ, I think we're ready to move on to the next.
Yeah, so, and Nathan, the next one that we have up is, what can you do to feel alive? So the first was feelings. Now, what can you do to feel alive? 3 minutes.
Okay. What came up after that 3 minutes for you guys? Anybody want to share? Megan?
Yeah, I have a lot of what Abby wrote, but laughter, singing, ranting is a big one for me. Travel, speaking up, shouting, being in water, and dancing. And then the last one takes some courage, but I'm emboldened by Jamie Finch to say orgasming.
Yes.
That's it.
Love that list. What else? Chris?
Yeah, I feel alive sitting on a beach. I feel alive when I run. I feel alive being in a live show, a concert, singing in a group, hearing other people sing along, and laughing really hard. Others.
I feel like I left some key ones off my list. I feel like kind of bad about it.
No feeling bad. That is not feeling that brings you alive.
That's true. Okay. Anybody else before we move on to the next? Nathan.
I have hike, drive my car on a windy road with the music loud and the sunroof open, windows down, and then getting into my body, which is like taking a hot shower, meditating, running, things like that, exercising, whatnot.
So good. All right, great. Let's move on to the next.
Okay, this one is a little, this one might cause you to think a little bit deeper, but what can you hold inside you to feel alive? What can you hold? Abundance, peace, solitude, joy, warmth. What words can you hold on to that inside of you to feel alive?
All right. What thoughts came up for this? What do we hold inside of us to feel alive? Abby Buter?
A few that I wrote, peace, both and rather than either or, thinking, wonder and curiosity, radical acceptance for self and others, strength, abundance, expansion, and rest.
It's a good list. I love that. What else?
And Ben and Joy had their hand raised.
Sorry to unmute.
Just, my most treasured memories.
That's good. I love that.
Love it. We have two more in this section that we want to do, and then we'll kind of close that out and move to the kind of final prompt. But in the next prompt, the question is, what do you want in order to feel alive? What do you want in order to feel alive?
And I would just challenge you before I start the timer here. You'll notice that what's on this list, and again, we stole these from Abby. So these are her very personal posted public things that she put on her post. But I encourage you to get really specific here. You'll notice that she has adjectives that describe all of these. Like, think about, like, really visualize and taste and touch and feel what those things look like instead of these more abstract concepts. So I encourage you to get specific and descriptive for these things that you are longing for. 3 minutes starts now. Okay, I know this one might feel a little bit more personal, but if you're comfortable sharing anything that you wrote down, I'd love to hear it. Ben?
Yes. This is one of my favorite questions so far, by the way. I wrote, I need my feet to be where the sand and the ocean water meet. I want people in relationships that allow for mutual pleasure, sexual pleasure, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. I need creative food that stuns my taste buds and fills my stomach. I need to create from the depths of my being, to create stories and to create platforms that highlight the voices and narratives of other people. And I want nature all around me. I want to get lost in green, to be surrounded by the abundance of creation and the silence of trees.
Wow, that was an inspired 3 minutes for you, Ben. Wow.
Was.
Oh, so good. Okay, what else? Okay. All right.
I think my answer to that might now be I want more of Ben Tapper.
Yes.
To speak into my life.
Absolutely.
To hear more Ben Tapper. All right, so here's kind of the final one in this section for this. It's what can you be to feel most alive in this moment? What can you be to feel most alive in this moment?
All right, friends. What came up there?
For me, it was interesting. This is not what I actually would have thought, but some of the words that came up for me actually were son and brother, um, and kind of in both familial context, but also world context. It was just interesting. You know, I had some other ones like tranquil, creator, brave, some of those things, but the two that I just kept coming back to and kind of sitting with for a little while were son and brother.
Mm.
What that meant, again, like in my immediate family, and then also in a world context, and recognizing that those two things actually make me feel most alive.
Good. I noticed a lot of duality in my list. One was this like soft, open, being malleable to new ideas and constantly learning. But then the other half was this like disciplined, intentional, brave, aggressive isn't the right word, but this like this sitting in a space of being open and malleable, and also sitting in a space of being really intentional and present and driving. Was an interesting, there's like two very distinct parts of my list, so it was interesting. Ben, Joy?
Yeah, I just wrote an active sponge, passionately absorbing now with the intent for eventual action when ready, and then graceful to yourself.
Yeah, good.
Lovely. You know, part of why we wanted to kind of do this in two parts here is because, you know, there's that famous quote by Howard Thurman, who was a Black preacher, an activist, and thought leader, and author. And you've probably heard the quote, but maybe didn't know it was attributed to him. But the whole quote of "Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that," because what the world needs is people who come alive. Right? That famous quote of what the world needs, and I think even now in this moment, is what the world needs now is people who are recognizing what are the things that are causing them to come alive, and being able to put that into the world. And what the world needs is people who have come alive. And we want to pair that with this next prompt that'll kind of close us out together. And this next prompt is from also a thought leader and activist, a Black woman named Rachel Ricketts. And I put her website in the chat so you can kind of check her out. And she sent out some writing prompts. And she has a lot of podcasts right now. She, describes herself on a mission to heal the collective divide by dismantling racist heteropatriarchy, supporting healing for Black and Indigenous women, and helping us to all reclaim freedom, mind, body, and soul. And she basically asked a number of different questions that you can kind of find potentially later if you're like on her email address. But one that we wanted to kind of narrow in on was, how are you rooting into your higher self to support this revolution? We're in this moment of revolution in a time that we have the ability to actually make a difference in the world in some pretty profound ways, hopefully. And wanted to start with saying, all right, so who are we and what makes us come alive? And then how are we rooting into our higher self right now to support this revolution? And again, this is the question. This is one of the things of where not explaining what the question is, but what does this question mean to you in the context of where we are, what we've been talking about, and then what's going on in the world right now. So this one, we're going to give a little bit of extra time. We're going to give 5 minutes to write on this, and just take some time now to say, all right, I just spoke to what came alive in me, what's causing me to come alive. And now that I've kind of centered into myself a little bit, how am I rooting into that higher self to support the revolution that is happening? And we'll take 5 minutes.
All right. Who wants to share here? Ben? Ben, you may be muted.
I am, thank you.
No problem.
I'm committing and recommitting to my own healing. I am facing and traveling into the hidden places of my being, encountering my wounded children and my passion, my nightmares and my dreams, my terror and my pleasure. I'm encountering myself, two sides of the same coin. I'm making bold changes, ending my marriage, reimagining my family, starting a business. I'm paying attention, willing to let go or turn away from all that brings. I'm telling stories. I'm embracing. I'm courting pain of growth and the gift of awareness. I'm searching for my own shortcomings because I cannot expand unless I have found my edge. Where I end, I may also begin. I'm prioritizing relationships with nature, with people, with work, and with myself. Everything is relational, and everything must be healthy. Most of all, I am not turning away from my work, our work, or the work.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. What else? Megan?
I won't share my whole list, but one thing I was trying to think about me specifically and like my physical attributes. And so one of the things that I wrote was like using my big soft body to protect Black bodies at protests.
That's lovely. Thank you. What else? I
I'll
found
share.
this.
Oh,
Oh, go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. I'll be brief. I pushed into this duality thing a little bit more because I think there's such a complexity that we're having to navigate right now. And I feel like I keep seeing this recurring theme of, well, I just don't know how to do anything right. And if I do this, I'm, attacked. If I do this, I'm attacked. And so I just was thinking through having the wisdom to know when it's time to connect and learn and educate myself versus when it's time to disconnect and center and have moments of solitude, when it's time to speak up and out versus when it's time to center others and listen, when it's time to rest versus act, when it's time for pleasure versus sacrifice, and knowing that all of those pieces are necessary and there's a time for each. And I hope that by continuing to root into my higher self, I continue to learn the appropriate places for all of those different sides of the coin, as Ben says. Yeah.
Love it. I'll share a little. I said to keep finding my place in the work, in this moment, on this day, in this season, and to know that that place will change. To keep learning and growing and sharing, to keep elevating and pointing towards others, to allow my own work, my mistakes, my growth, my way of life to be a catalyst for anyone who would pay attention around me, to stay humble and nimble, to stay rooted. Oh, I said to stay rooted out, not down. I have this picture of like there's a certain kind of grass where your roots grow out, so you end up being connected to the forest around you, not just going down. So that was the visual that I had. So to stay rooted out into my connections with the world around me, to take in the joy and the pain, to be aware of it and to feel it fully or as best as I can, so that this remains personal to me, to be about collective liberation, to tend to my relationships with the world.
Man, I wish I had all these written down somewhere. I'd like to, if anyone cares to share these later, I don't know how we do that, but I would love to see what people wrote down. Ben, your list was so great. Melissa, that was so great.
And we also have a recording here, so the people who shared, but anybody who wants to share outside of this, I think we can do that as well. Leah, I saw your hand.
Yes, I did raise my hand. So I don't know, I really connected with these questions. A lot of the things that make me feel alive take place within relationships. Both like being empathetic, supporting people, helping them feel loved and affirmed, and also like challenging people, helping to like ask questions to help them like consider another side or to grow, teaching things that I've learned, and also engaging in intellectually stimulating conversations myself. And so thinking about what's going on now in terms of, I think, a lot of mostly white, but other non-Black folks either waking up to their privilege for the first time, or the severity of it, or the importance of not just being not racist, but being like strongly anti-racist. And what does that look like in terms of the internal work and the external work? I think my place in the revolution could be primarily like in conversations, relational, I don't know, kind of like all the things I said earlier, both like for my own personal self, engaging intellectually and emotionally with materials, learning about the history of racism, about Black history specifically, and helping other people learn that, but also just, I don't know, I feel like maybe I'm not articulating this well. I have strong feelings, but I don't know if it's coming out in words very well. But I guess more than anything, like relational aspects of helping other people engage in emotional and or intellectual growth.
No, that's great. Thank you, Leah. Anybody else?
Well, I hope that these were the good prompts for all of us. You know, I know it was good for me just to kind of pause for a little bit. And my hope for all of us too in all of this is that may we be the kind of people who are connected with ourselves enough to know what makes us come alive and step into that in a way that allows us to then go out and make a difference in the world. Right, that we can recognize, you know, again, I think a lot of people are going, what can I do right now? Like, you know, and obviously there's marching and there's education and there's all that stuff, but there's a lot of things in us that probably feel a little bit more subtle. It's like, well, you know, some of the words I wrote down was creator, like and create and calm and rest and different things like that. Well, how can those things help me come alive in a way? How can I step into those in a way that impacts the world in a greater space? And specifically in the context, not just kind of on a broad make the world a better place, but literally, what can I create in this moment? If creating something helps me come alive and being creative, what can I create in this moment that speaks into the revolution? How can I pay attention to those moments and those things that spark joy, that spark something in me, step into that and use that as a way of moving forward? Even if I'm like right now, I'm not marching. You know, yesterday I was marching, but today I'm not marching, but I can still step into the revolution by stepping into the things that make me come alive, which is community, right? There's community here. There is connection here. There is listening and learning from others here. And that can be a part of the revolution if we allow it to be. So may we be the people who really step into the things that come alive, and out of that, be a part of the revolution that changes the world. So Melissa, we will now turn it over to you to kind of close this out. And thank you everybody for sharing and participating and being vulnerable in this space.
Thank you, JJ and Lauren, for leading us through this very lovely and hopefully transformative time together this afternoon. And also, if you see or can comment to Abby. Abby was the catalyst for this, and she gave us her permission for us to use this today, and I want to make sure you know that, but give her a thank you as well online, if you will. I hope also that you will find ways to share this, whether that's share this with someone who you're close to and be a catalyst for them or your family, or if you feel so comfortable sharing it in some form online. I think this is powerful work, and I think someone seeing us doing this work will be a catalyst for them to want to do it as well. So I encourage you to share it in some form or fashion. Next week we'll have Happy Hour Wednesday. Next week, our gathering, I'll be doing a short teaching and we'll do dialogue around it. The following week, Andre Henry will be with us. Super excited about that, and we'll go heavy into promoting that this week. So please help us share and spread the word about that too. Our body email comes out tomorrow morning, curated by Kate Moore. It's really sort of straightforward and to the point and so good. So I hope you'll check that out. But if you have a glass, or if you don't, I want to close us. I've read this poem over us before, but it just feels very fitting for where we're at today. This is from David White. He says, "Time to go into the dark, where the night has eyes to recognize its own. There you can be sure you are not beyond love. The dark will be your womb tonight. The night will give you a horizon further than you can see. You must learn one thing: the world was made to be free in. Give up all other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you." May it be so, friends. Thanks for spending your hour with us. Thank you, JJ, Lauren, Nathan. Cheers, good people.
Cheers.
And all of the prompts I just put in the chat if you want to copy those really quick if you're interested.
We can also repost on the community page too. Okay. Thank you all. You rock. Have a good evening.
Bye.